Hey, how's it going? Yesterday, we did a little bit of an introduction with a new story this week called Thunder Rose. And Thunder Rose, we talked about, is a tall tale. It's an American folk tale that is built with some great exaggeration to often make the main character, the protagonist of the story, seem larger than life. Today, we're going to be reading the first half of Thunder Rose together on this video, and you are going to have some work to do along with it. You're going to have a copy of the story, you are going to have a writing tool, and you are going to have some sticky notes. So I'm going to pause right now, and I'm going to ask you to pause the video until you have Thunder Rose open to the first page, which is page 56, a writing tool, and some sticky notes. And as soon as you have that, you can hit play again. All right, we are back, and you are ready to jump into this week's tall tale, American folk tale called Thunder Rose, where our protagonist or main character is Rose. And we are going to notice that there is some great exaggeration around her life. This is one of the main things that makes this story a tall tale. So as we read today, I'm going to ask you to pause a few times in the video, and you are going to use the sticky notes to jot down some ideas and thoughts about some of the great exaggerations about Rose's life. Some of the things that make Rose a larger than life character. This means some of the things that Rose will do that a regular person would not be able to do. All right? We're going to jump into the story. I will tell you when to pause. It will be up on the screen, but you will also have your books right in front of you. I hope you enjoy this American folktale, this tall tale called Thunder Rose. Thunder Rose by Jardine Nolan. Illustrated by Kadir Nelson. Remember, the genre or kind of story this week is a tall tale. And tall tales are amusing stories told with great exaggeration. That's what we were talking about earlier. Sensory language, right? It appeals to your senses, things you can see, hear, smell, taste, touch, in order to help put you in the story, and bigger than life characters. Characters that do things that a normal person could not do. As you read, try to imagine what Rose will do next. And our guiding question this week is, how can nature challenge us? First, pause. I want you to pause the story right now and write down at least 2 ways that nature can challenge us. Once you've done that, you can hit play again. Go ahead and do that now on a sticky note. All right. Thunder Rose by Jardine Nolan. Illustrated by Kadir Nelson. Rose was the first child born free and easy to Jackson and Millicent Magruder. I recall most vividly the night that she came into this world. Hailing rain, flashing lightning, and booming thunder pounded the door, inviting themselves in for the blessed event. Taking in her first breath of life, the infant did not cry out. Rather, she sat up and looked around. She took a hold of that lightning, rolled it into a ball, and set it above her shoulder, while the thunder echoed out over the other. They say this just accentuated the fact that the child had the power of thunder and lightning coursing through her veins. "She's going to grow up to be good and strong, all right," Doc Holliday said. The child turned to the good doctor with a thoughtful glance and replied, "I reckon I will want to do more than that, thank you very kindly." Shifting her gaze To the two loving lights shining on her, which were her ma and pa, she remarked, "Much obliged to you both for this chance to make my way in the world." Then she announced to no one in particular, "I am right partial to the name Rose." So much in love with this gift of their lives, her ma and pa hovered over her in watchful splendor. Overcome with that love, they lifted their voices in song, an old song, and a melody so sweet and true, a lullaby passed down from the ages, echoing since the beginning of time. All right, buddies, we have a job to do. This first page here, on the day that Rose was born, immediately after her birth, which, as some friends pointed out yesterday, there was great thunder and lightning occurring in the background. What are at least two things that young Rose did here on this page that are a great exaggeration, that make her a larger-than-life character? At least two things that Rose does that a brand new newborn baby could not do. Go ahead and pause the video and take down a couple notes on your sticky notes for that. And make sure you have a page 58 on that sticky note. Go ahead and do that now. All right, now that you've found some great exaggeration on page 58, let's move on to page 59. 60 and 61. "There was a music ringing so sweetly in my ears," the newborn exclaimed. "It's giving me a fortunate feeling rumbling deep in the pit of me. I'll register it here at the bullseye set in the center of my heart and see what I can do with it one day." That's interesting. I want to keep that in mind, that she's talking about taking this song from the beginning and holding on to it later for use at another time, one day. Since the author is the gatekeeper of the information, it would seem to me that this information must be important. Otherwise, the author wouldn't have had Rose talk about keeping that song at the center of her heart to be able to see what she could do with it one day. Rose snored up plenty that first night, breathing on her own, rattling the rafters on the roof right along with the booming thunder. There was nothing quiet about her slumber. She seemed determined to be just as forceful as that storm. With the thunder and lightning keeping watch over her the rest of the night, her ma and pa just took to calling her Thunder Rose. The next morning, when the sun was high yellow in that billowy blue sky, Rose woke up as hungry as a bear in spring, but not the least bit ornery. Oh, I see here, ornery would be something that a bear would be when they woke up in the spring. So that makes me think that ornery would be kind of grouchy. So she was not grouchy. And remember, the next morning she woke up, she's now 1 day old. Rose woke up as hungry as a bear in spring, but not the least bit ornery. Minding her manners, she politely thanked her ma for the milk. But it was not enough to quench her hungry thirst. Rose preferred instead to drink her milk straight from the cow. Her ma was right grateful to have such a resourceful child. No other newborn had the utter strength to lift a whole cow clear over her head and almost drink it dry. In a moment's time, Rose did, and quite daintily so. Oh, I remember daintily is one of our vocabulary words. It means in a delicate, kind of beautiful way. So, day-old Rose here just lifted up a cow and drank it dry. She was pretty as a picture, had the sweetest disposition, but don't let yourself be misled. That child was full of lightning and thunder. Out on that paper bag brown, Dusty, dry, wide open space, Rose often was found humming a sweet little tune as she did her chores. And true to her word, Rose did more than grow good and strong. The 2-year-old became quite curious about the pile of scrap iron lying next to the barn. So we're going to pause right here. And on this page, okay, page 61, I want you to label a sticky note 61, and I want you to write down at least one great exaggeration about Rose's abilities from the text. All right, so if you're back now, that means you've written down at least one great exaggeration from page 61. I'm going to reread the last line at the bottom here for you. The bottom of 61. The 2-year-old became quite curious about the pile of scrap iron lying next to the barn. Scrap iron, that means leftover stuff no one's using. Rose took a good-sized piece, stretched it here, bent and twisted it there. She constructed, which our vocabulary word means built, she constructed a thunderbolt as black as pitch to punctuate her name. She called it Coal. Wherever she went, Coal was always by her side. Noticing how skilled Rose was with metal, her pa made sure there was always an extra supply of it always around. At the age of 5, Rose did a commendable job of staking the fence without a bit of help. During her 8th and 9th years, Rose assembled some iron beams together with wooden blocks she used to play with and constructed a building tall enough to scrape the sky, always humming as she worked. All right, friends, I'm going to pause you right here for page 62. Please come up with at least one greatly exaggerated thing that Rose was able to do from page 62. Go ahead and pause now. All right, now that we're back, reading this first paragraph here about constructing that thunderbolt as black as pitch out of metal, my mind is being jogged back to the picture on the previous page. I think this must be what she refers to as coal, her thunderbolt that she made by twisting it out of metal. I can see the twists. And I also can look back at the title page, where at first we were wondering what this was that was over her shoulders. This must be coal, that metal thunderbolt-shaped item that she's created, that she now carries everywhere with her. Picking up on 63, by the time she turned 12, Rose had perfected her metal bending practices. She formed delicately shaped alphabet letters to help the younger ones learn to read. For his birthday, Rose presented her pa with a branding iron, a circle with a big M-A-C for Magruder in the middle. Just in time, too, because a herd of quick-tempered, longhorn steer was stampeding its way up from the Rio Grande. They were plowing a path straight toward her front door. I want to clarify something. They were stampeding. I know that cattle can run in large groups, and when they run, they're very powerful. And that running that they do is often called stampeding. So there's a large herd of cattle stampeding their way up. I wonder what the picture in the book has to do with that stampede. if you can make a prediction about that right now. Rose performed an eye-catching wonder, the likes of which was something to see. Running lightning fast toward the herd, using Cole for support, Rose vaulted into the air and landed on the back of the biggest lead steer, like he was a merry-go-round pony. Grabbing a horn in each hand, Rose twisted that varmint to a complete halt. It was just enough to restrain that top bull and the rest of the herd. But I believe what touched that critter's heart was when Rose began humming her little tune. That cantankerous ton of beef was restless no more. Oh, this sentence means that at one point that steer was restless. That must mean that all of the running and being angry. So I bet cantankerous means kind of angry. But it seems like Rose's song calmed him down. That cantankerous ton of beef was restless no more. He became as playful as a kitten and even tried to purr. Rose named him Tater on account of that was his favorite vegetable. Hearing Rose's lullaby put that considerable creature to sleep was the sweetest thing I had witnessed in a long, long time. After the dust had settled, Ma and Pa counted 2,700 head of cattle, after they added in the 500 they already had. Using the scrap iron, Rose had to add a new section to the bull pen to hold them all. "What did you do to that wire, Rose?" Ma asked, surprised and pleased at her daughter's latest creation. "Oh, that?" she said. "While I was staking the fence, Pa asked me to keep little Barbara J company. That twisty pattern seemed to make the baby laugh. So I like to think of it as a Barbara's wire." "That was right clever of you to be so entertaining to the little one like that," her ma said. Rose just blushed. Over the years, that twisty wire caught on, and folks just called it barbed wire. Now I'm going to clarify something here. Barbed wire is that wire that has really sharp edges on it, almost like thorns that people put on the tops of fences to keep things from getting out or to keep things from getting in. And barbed wire is a real thing. But Rose called this Barbara's wire. And I also know that this is a work of fiction, right? A tall tale. So I can infer from this that Rose herself is not actually the real inventor of barbed wire. This is just an entertaining story that the author has decided to place in. Rose and her pa spent the whole next day sorting the animals that had not been branded. "One day soon, before the cold weather gets in," she told her pa, "I'll have to get this herd up the Chisholm Trail and to market in Abilene. I suspect Tater is the right kind of horse for the long drive northward." So, over the course of 65 here, and what happened, if I flip back, during those last couple of paragraphs on page 63, Rose certainly did something incredible. At this time, you're going to be able to pause, and I want you to have a sticky note for page 63 and 65 to talk about at least one incredible thing that Thunder Rose was able to do. So go ahead and pause now. All right. Now that we are back, we have finished the first half today of our story, Thunder Rose. What I would like you to do is please take those sticky notes and please put them inside your blue folder so that we will have them for our discussion tomorrow about the elements of a tall tale. Thanks, everybody. On to the next activity.